And I'm gonna go over because I gotta get a bunch of stuff in here. So I'm looking at number 12 first. And so the cost of our project, we have land of 400. We have a building of 2 million. And equipment of 1 million. So the total cost of our project is gonna be, oops, another 0. Is gonna be $3.4 million. Okay, and then we're gonna see how is it financed. So it's financed with the bank of 2,400,000 and the owner of 1 million. The bank wants 8% and the owner wants 15. Okay. The owner also has a tax rate of 40%. And then we're just going to make a list. I'm going to do over here some of the costs that they give us. So we have property taxes. And if you think again about the income statement that we did, property taxes was always down in that third section because it's a fixed cost. We have insurance, again, down there in the bottom. We have depreciation that we have to calculate. So we'll leave a space and come back with that. So we have depreciation on the building.
Which problem is this?
This is number 12 on page 430.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. We have undistributed expenses. So we have fixed of 300,000. But we also have a variable of 5%. We have a management fee. Oh, I put that over here. Of 5%. So telephone department is expected to break even. So that's another area in the property, but it's not going to affect what we're going to do because whatever brings in sales will cover the costs. We have, I'm just going to move that up there. So we have room expenses. Part of it is fixed. Part of it is variable. And we have, I'll put this up here. Occupancy, 70%. And make sure you always read that first little sentence. We have 50 rooms. Okay, so that's what I would do when I do these problems, I've got all my fixed stuff down here. Okay, I got all my fixed stuff down here. Got a list of my variable stuff over here that I have to put into my equation. Gonna need this at some point. And I know I have the bank that I gotta pay. And I know that I gotta figure in what the owner wants. So, I mean, there's no setup for these. There's no format for these. Companies are gonna have their own little format that they wanna use. But I just suggest you do this because then you have everything where it's supposed to be. And then we can go on and figure out the numbers that we need to do. So we're going to figure out the interest and we're going to figure out the owners. That didn't work real well. Okay. All right, so let's go do the bank first. The bank, remember, we use the I equals PRT formula. Your time with these is always for a year because we're figuring this out for a year. So we're going to take the 2,400,000. We're going to multiply by 8% for 1 year. Okay, everybody all right with that? Again, as I go through, if you have questions, ask. Okay. Everybody okay with the interest?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to put interest down here. All right, now the owner. The owner wants 15% back on his investment, but he wants that after tax. So the amount that goes in here has to be pre-tax. Has to be pre-tax. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out what his 15% is. So we're going to take the 1 million and we're going to multiply by the 15%. Okay. And we get 15,000. That's what they want in their hand. So what we have to do is go figure out what that is before tax. And to do that, we're going to take the, I'm going to call it the return. And we're going to divide by 1 minus the tax rate. So in this case, what we would do is we would take the 15,000 and we would divide by 1 minus 0.4 because that's the tax rate. Okay. And so we would do the 15,000 and we would divide by 0.6. And so 25,000, 250,000, sorry, is what we would have to build into our formula over here. We have to cover that with sales. Questions?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so that's how you would do. Interest is the I equals PRT. Okay, and that's what we would get. Figure out what the owner's 15%,
gosh.
but then you gotta figure it out pre-tax. So that when they get this much, pay 40% in taxes, they're gonna end up with 150,000. So 40% of this would be $100,000. So if we subtract that off, they would get their 150 that they want.
No.
So you're making a list of everything that you know that you have to pay regardless. You're figuring out the interest. You're figuring out the owner's investment. This one has a little additional calculations because we have to calculate depreciation. Are you okay with all these numbers? I say with these, you're just writing down what you have to pay. Get your fixed costs all listed out.
The new headphones should come today.
Okay? All right,
I
let's
really
go
can't
to
stand these
depreciation.
old headphones.
Okay, it's straight line. Cost minus salvage value divided by life. Okay, cost minus salvage value divided by life. And I don't think you'll ever see anything but the straight line here. So let's go look at our building first. Now the building cost $2 million. Has 0 salvage and it has a 40-year life. So you're going to take the 2 million minus 0 salvage divided by life, and they told you it had a 40-year life. Okay? And that's how you would calculate the depreciation. So there would be $200,000. That didn't come out right. Let's take that out. There, that looks a little better. Okay. So depreciation for the building is going to be $50,000. Everybody okay with that? All right. The equipment cost $1 million. 0 salvage. And it had a life of 10 years. Okay. So that depreciation is going to be $100,000. So we've got all of our fixed costs. These were given. These were given. And we had to calculate those by doing this. We had to calculate these two, and you're always going to have to calculate those two. Interest, you're always going to use the I equals PRT, and you're always going to use 1 for your time. Owner's investment, figure out what their return is, and then do it pre-tax. Make sure you do this subtraction before you do the division. Otherwise, it doesn't come out right. Questions? Okay, so that is our fixed costs. And now we get to do algebra. In the sales, we need to cover the fixed costs and all these variables. We have a management fee. We have undistributed variable 5%. We have a room variable of 15%. They have to be built in our formula. That's the only place that they go. All right, so our sales, and we're going to call that X, is equal to the variable, the fixed cost first, and then all of our variables. So we've got management of 5%.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
My equipment keeps coming up as 10,000 and not 100.
Do you have enough zeros in your equipment? It's 1 million and not 100,000?
I have 6 zeros.
Did you take this zero out here?
Yeah.
Because when you divide, you should only be taking off a zero if you're dividing by 10.
Okay, I see it. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so you got management of 5. You've got undistributed of 5. And you have room of 15. Now that's not a very good algebra equation, but we'll take care of that in a second. Okay. So these percentages are percentages of sales, which is X. So when we put it into a real algebra formula, it's going to be, let me be lazy, hang on a second. It's going to be X is equal to 0.05x plus another 0.05x plus a 0.15x. Okay, everybody okay with that? I know the algebra part bothers a lot of you more than anything. Okay, so we're going to solve it mathematically. We're going to combine our x's first. So if we add all these together, we're going to end up with 0.25x. Remember, this x technically has a 1 in front of it. So we're going to subtract, because this is added, we're going to subtract 0.25x from both sides. So we end up with 0.75x equal to the 1,000 or 1,072,000. Because this is multiplied, to go to the next step, we need to divide both sides by 0.75 so that you end up with x equal to 1,429,3. Okay, Now I know there are questions here, so ask, because I know how much you guys like algebra. None whatsoever.
I don't have any yet.
What's that?
I don't have any questions just yet.
Okay. I like the clarification. That's fine. All right.
I have one. How did you get 0.75x?
Okay. So remember when you're doing algebra, there's technically a 1 in front of this x.
Yes.
So I'm going to subtract because this is added. I have to do the
Mhm.
opposite. So I'm subtracting 0.25x from both sides. So if I take the 1 and subtract 0.25, that's where the 0.75.
Okay, that makes sense. All right,
Okay.
gotcha.
Sure. Anything else? Thank you for asking questions. I know you're there. All right. So that's what we have to make in sales. Now we have to figure out what our ADR is going to be. So now we're going to go back to the fact that we had 50 rooms with a 70% occupancy. And we're doing it for 1 year. So to find our rooms, we're just going to take the 50. That won't work real well. Times 0.70 times 365. And periods work better than that. Okay, that's how we're going to calculate. So we're going to do 12,775 rooms is what we expect to sell. So to get our ADR, will be equal to the 1,429,333 divided by the 12,775. I can't do that. Hold on. Okay, I round that because that's not really something we're gonna do. So that's what we would have to charge per room. Okay, now that's ADR, remember? So if you're obviously going to have different types of rooms. So you're going to have to figure out, like I showed you in that one problem the other day, where you would have to figure out the difference between doubles, singles, suites. And usually you figure out what your occupancy percentage would be at those different rates. Find the difference that you're going to have, whatever you're going to add to the single room for your doubles and your suites. Okay. Questions? I mean, these are fairly standard. Get all of your fixed costs listed. Do your interest, do your owner. That's your total fixed costs. Put your equation with all the variables and be careful because you have a lot of percentages going on here. That's why I write mine out like I do. So I know that this is only for the bank. Those two are only in the owner. They have nothing to do with what goes in down here, what goes into my equation. And then these are all my variables. They need to be in my equation. Questions?
So we're just finding the ADR, we're not like finding out the cost per single or double or suite.
We didn't have to do that with this one, but yes, that's what you would have to do. At
Sorry,
some
what was that question?
to figure out like the singles and doubles and suites.
Oh, okay.
They would have to give us more information in order for us to do that. They would have to break down the percentages of doubles versus singles versus suites. They would also have to tell us how much is added to a single room for a double or for a suite. So yeah, theoretically in the real world, you would have to do that because you're not going to sell all your rooms at the same price. Anything else? All right, then the other one was number 18, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
All right, so let's go. I started to put the stuff in here. So the cost of the project was 4 million. Plus they had other expenses of 200,000 for startup.
And this is where when I first did this, I got screwed up because I went off of total cost is 5 million. So then I took the 200,000 out instead of, or just looked at that as separate as part of the 5 million. So whatever numbers they give us, we're basically adding in. Because
Correct.
to me, it was sort of like a double negative. Total cost of construction and then another 200,000. So I was like, I don't know what this 200,000 is. It part of the total or not?
So because they have it listed that the 5 million is strictly construction,
Okay,
then the startup costs so that they have some cash.
gotcha.
I think this is the only one that really does that. I don't remember seeing that in the other problems. So the total cost of this project is going to be the 5 million and the 200,000. Oops. So that's going to be the total cost of our project. All right, so let's see what we got. We have a franchise cost. Let me get rid of some of these here. Okay, so we have franchise fee. And we've talked about franchise fees before. They're only good for a certain period of time. And this one is over 5 years. So we're going to do just like we do with depreciation. Okay. And that's not a separate cost. That is part of the 200,000. Okay, they tell you that that's part of the 200,000. All right, so we got to deal with that. Depreciation, we're gonna have to deal with depreciation. So we got to amortize our franchise fee. We got to do depreciation. And they tell us that that is over 24 years. And the franchise fee is over 5 years. Again, you can see I'm setting this up totally different. There's no right way to set this up. Lots of times it depends on how they give the information. Okay, so way we're going to pay for this is we are going to borrow. So we're going to borrow from the bank. And it tells us we're going to borrow 3 million at 12%. Okay. The owner wants an 18% return. I don't know why you're doing that. Okay, the owner wants 18%. Other costs. And you can, again, you can see I'm jumping all around here. So I'm just reading through the problem and putting the information in as I go. So other costs are $1.5 million. Okay, we have management fee of 3%. Not got very much. Okay, what else do we have? All right. So we have a gift shop and food service department. Profits total 0 and 300,000. So I'm just going to put this over here. So the gift shop will contribute nothing. And food will contribute 300,000. All variable room costs are all variable. So they have 0 fixed, and the variable is 25%. Okay. We have occupancy of 70%. And we have 100 rooms. Should have put that in first. And then the last piece of information we have is that the owner has a 25% tax bracket. Okay. So all I did was put in the information that I have. I haven't done any calculations whatsoever, except I added this up. Okay, I added that up. All right, so let's go take care of the bank. So we're going to calculate the interest. Again, we're using the I equals PRT. So it's going to be the 3 million times the 12% times 1 year. Okay, I'm just going to move this over. So all we're going to do is calculate. We're going to have $360,000 in interest. I already calculated. All right, are you okay with that? So let's look up here. Total cost of the project is $5,200,000. If the bank we're going to the bank for 3 million, that means the owner has to put in the rest. So the owner is going to put in the other $2,200,000. So if they don't tell you, just figure it out. They're gonna have to tell you either the bank or the owner. They gotta tell you one of the two. So in this case, they told us the bank, so we know the owner has to put in the rest. So the owner wants 18% on their money. So that's the first thing we're gonna figure. Okay, they want to walk out of there with $396,000 in their hand. So we have to do it pre-tax. So pre-tax. We're going to take the 396,000. And we're going to divide by 1 minus the tax rate. Okay, so you're going to end up with probably would do math better if it was a period. Okay, that's what we're going to need to build into our formula. Okay. Everybody okay with that number? All right.
Yep.
Let's go down to the franchise fee.
I have a question.
Franchise, somebody have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When the textbook says like two things equal one, so like if they say like the tax and the expense totals a number, is it okay if I put them in the same line, or do you just want them like divided in half? It's not for this problem, it was just in
I'm not
general.
gonna require any specific setup.
Okay,
How's that? Does that answer your question?
yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, so franchise fee cost us $100,000. It's part of the 200,000, so it's not an additional cost, but the amortization on it is an additional expense. And so we can include that in here. And so we're going to take the $100,000 and divide by 5 because it's over 5 years. So our amortization is going to be 20,000. Everybody okay with that? All right, now this is the one you need to be careful. When you go to do the depreciation, you can only depreciate the cost of the construction. Make sure you don't include that 200,000. So it's just the cost of the construction divided by 24 years because there's no salvage value. Okay, don't include the cost of construction. Just be careful with that. And so, oh, there was a salvage value. Oh. There was a salvage value, guys. Didn't catch me. There was a $200,000 salvage value.
Yeah, I was trying to double check my math and I'm like, no,
I
I
had to
have
go back and read.
200,000 in depreciation, so.
So I had to go back and
Okay.
read. All right. That looks a little better. I missed that when I was reading through. Okay. So these are the only fixed costs we have this time. These two are always a standard. Franchise fee we had to amortize. You have that or you don't. Depreciation, you may have to calculate that or you don't. Just depends on the different problems. And then with this one, our variable cost for rooms is all we have. There is no fixed. So we're gonna add those up. Here down. So those are my total fixed costs. Questions on this? Okay, this one is a little different. This is the total fixed costs, but we have another area that's going to contribute to those fixed costs. The gift shop is going to contribute nothing, but the food department is going to contribute $300,000. So that's that much less that I have to get from my room sales. So I can just subtract off this 300,000. And then this is what I need to cover in my sales. So if you have another area that's going to contribute to the fixed costs, that's that much less that you have to get from the room department. So this is what we're going to stick into our formula. Are you okay with that? That's a little bit different. All right, so now we're going to put into our formula here. Yes, I'm being lazy. So we're going to put in our 2308. Okay, our management fee in this case is only 3%. And then we have rooms, a variable of 25%. Okay. So we'll turn it again into an algebra problem. Combining our x's. Okay. Again, subtract from both sides. So we're going to have a 0.72x is equal to the 2,308,000. And so we end up with x equal to 3,205,556. Just another thing to check yourself to make sure you're doing your math right. Make sure your sales is always more than this. If your sales comes out less than the fixed cost, you've done something wrong mathematically. All right, we had 100 rooms, right? Times 70% times 365 days. So we expect to sell 25,550 rooms. To find our ADR, we're going to take this. And we're going to divide by this. And that's what we get for our ADR. All right, questions?
What if there's like no management fee?
There was a 3%.
No, I know, but like just like
I
is
don't
there
think you'll
always gonna
ever
be-
see one where you don't have one.
Okay, because like on the last one, you had 3 different X's or 3 different fees.
Okay, well, it depends on the last one. The undistributed expenses were part fixed and part variable. And
Okay.
this one, the undistributed expenses were all fixed.
Okay.
The last one, the rooms had a fixed and variable component. This one, they only have a variable. So you just have to go with whatever they give you. They're never going to be the same.
Okay.
Okay, they're never going to be the same. So there's a little bit more to this problem. But we're running out of time. But let me just look at one thing. Okay, I have this one on Vanco. And I will show it so that you can see it. Because right now it's not. And there's also an audio, but you're going to have this recording. So there's another problem on there to practice, number 15. There's an Excel file if you want to practice another one, and it has the answers. And if you don't come out, let me know. You have a homework assignment due tonight, which is number 13 and number 16. And I'll get those graded in the morning so that you have feedback before your test on Friday. Questions? Okay.
Just as a question, continuing on number 18, I know you only asked us to do number 1, but in looking at number 2, where it said assume the gift shop department losses total 50,000, in that case, we would just add that 50,000 back to the 2308 number, redo the algebra and divide it by the number, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
And then the last piece actually has, if you want to play with singles, doubles, and suites. I don't know if I have that on that problem. I don't think I have that on that answer. If you want to play with the last part of that, here are the answers, because I don't think I have that on Vanco. But if you wanted to play, a single room is 112.34. A double is 122.34. And a suite is 152.93, if you want to play with that. I did do the redo with the $50 added, but I didn't do that third piece on there. All right, questions? Okay, I'm going to stop record.